Good afternoon. We're now joined by Janet Legrand, who's a senior elected board member at the law firm DLA Piper. Welcome.
Thank you.
Janet's just come from the Ladies in Risk Management lunch, where the theme for the lunch was Women in Boardrooms, a Challenge for Diversity. So, with the theme being set around diversity, what does that kind of mean to you, and what was happening and being said in the lunch?
Well, there were two speakers. The other speaker is from Scandinavia, but unfortunately, as a woman serving on a board, she was taken away from us at short notice, so she was having to actually deal in real time with a board issue. But she did record her speech on an iPad for us, so she gave us the Scandinavian experience, and she talked about the Norwegian experience where there's legislation imposing quotas, the experience in the other Scandinavian countries and what that's really done in terms of diversity. And I think what I drew from her speech was that certainly in Norway there are many more women now on boards than there were 6 years ago. But there are far fewer women in senior management. So women in senior management have been sucked into board roles, which she certainly didn't think was a good idea, and I think nobody in the room thought that was a suitable way of working. The position is different in other Scandinavian countries, and there are more women on boards than there were 10 years ago. But the pace of change differs depending on the levers for change in the country. I spoke about the UK experience and what's been happening in the UK over the last few years. And in the UK, there's been a recognition in the last 3 or 4 years on the part of government that they needed to investigate why there were so few women on boards and do something about it. And in our case, there's not been an imposition of quotas, but there have been some subtle changes to the way that boards have to report on transparency in recruitment. There have been some changes to what recruitment agents do voluntarily to encourage a broader gene pool. And there's been a very considerable increase in the women taking on board roles in the UK in recent years.
So, and I guess just as an anecdotal snapshot from Scandinavia to UK, thinking that the rest of the people that were in the room, was there shared experiences that were coming out, or were there some other little bits of diversity?
I think there was a shared view that quotas are not the way to go, and quotas are a big topic for women on boards. People want to be recruited on merit. I sit on the board of DLA Piper, and I sit there because I was selected by my partners, not because I had to be there. And it's very important for my credibility that that's the case. And in the other boards I sit on, it's the same point. You want to be chosen. Although I guess looking more provocatively at the question of quotas, if you were to ask whether we should have a quota for the number of men on a board, I don't think most people would say there should be more than 60% or 70% of a board should be men. So that's another way of looking at the issue, perhaps.
To a side of priorities, are there any? Quotas. Are there any other priorities that should sit out there if you had an opportunity? If there's 1, 2, 3 things you could change going forward?
Yes, I think the other priority that drives this is European legislation, or the threat of it, which is encouraging more companies to recruit more women onto their boards. But actually the real driver are the recent studies, and there was something in the Sunday Times again this weekend that demonstrate empirically that if you have 3 or more women on your board, your company will be more successful and profitable. And that really should be the driver and the be all and end all. It's economic.
Well, a good strong message as well. So, thank you for that, Janet. It's
My
very
pleasure.
interesting.
My
Thank you.
pleasure.